today we're doing Christ in Deuteronomy 8. Verse 1, every commandment which I command you today, you must be careful to observe that you may live and multiply. Okay, so we know that multiplying spiritually for the Christian world means to make disciples by the Holy Spirit.
It wasn't because God did something wrong. It's because they didn't walk out that power on a consistent basis. And it's the same with you and I. We don't do it on a consistent basis. That's one of the reasons we're here tonight, to encourage one another as we carry on the battle, to keep walking it out in the strength of the Lord. Because we need to be strengthened, don't we? Because life has a way of just dragging us down.
Go into the land to possess, of which the Lord swore to your fathers, and you shall remember that your Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you. Okay, remember also the way God led them out of Egypt. It was like the baptism of the Holy Spirit going through the Red Sea, and then the sanctification process, okay, in the wilderness, and then we know the promised land is our heaven for Christianity. Okay.
And you and I are told to deal very harshly with the things that can potentially draw us into sin. And Jesus said this same thing using a different word picture. It's in Matthew's gospel. Let me put it on the screen for you so you can see it here. It's from Matthew chapter 5. Jesus said this, verse 29 and 30. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away.
Okay, to test you, remember also Christ, he was tested in the wilderness for 40 days instead of 40 years. But he passed the test, and then also he said that man does not live on bread alone, which that verse is also in here.
He took them into the wilderness. They had nothing to do but rely on the Lord. That's all they could do. And God will do that in our lives from time to time. He will bring us into a place where there's nothing you can do but rely on Him. Why? He's testing you.
And to know what was in your heart, whether you it's about the heart with God. That's Christianity. That's being born again in the heart. Whether you keep His commandments or not. So, and then we also know that no one keeps the commandments, nor do we even have the desire to keep the commandments until we have the Holy Spirit in us, okay? After what Christ did on the cross.
You need to understand that God is bringing you to this place of testing to see what your response is going to be. Will it be, God, do you even care? Or will it be, God, I choose to trust in you regardless?
And so He humbled you, allowed you to hunger, to be fed with manna, which you did not know of your fathers. As Christ said, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And all of these now are repeats of the same things we just talked about. Okay, verses all the way up to 8. And then let's see here. A land which you eat bread without scarcity. Okay, so that's actually a profound statement. Without scarcity, so meaning that it will never run out. So we do have rich lands, but to me, when you say something's never going to run out, to me, it's talking about the New Jerusalem. And according to Revelation, actually be located on the actual Jerusalem, but will be much larger than what Jerusalem is today.
You'll remember Jesus quoted to Satan when he was tempted to turn stones into loaves of bread.
So beware that you not forget the Lord your God by not keeping His commandments, His judgments, and the statutes which I command you this day. Lest when you have eaten and are full and built beautiful houses and dwell in them, when your herds and your flocks multiply and your silver and your gold are multiplied and all that you have is multiplied. And actually it does say that in New Jerusalem, we will be tempted after 1,000 years again by the devil. So even when we're in New Jerusalem, which is like heaven, still we need to remember and to not forget what Jesus Christ did for us. One thing I forgot to mention, so when God led them into the wilderness for the sanctification process, and then when they came into the promised land, they're about to go in the promised land, they were led by Joshua, who actually passed the test in the wilderness, just like Jesus, which also means salvation. Okay, Yeshua. And Joshua, Yehoshua, it means God is salvation. So this practically the same name in Hebrew, and they both passed the test, and they both led them into the promised land, led the people of Israel to the promised land.
He's preparing them for when they come to the promised land. They're going to take all this time in the wilderness to be reminded, God takes care of me. God takes care of me. God takes care of me. Then when they get to the Jordan and they enter into the land, they're going to face these enemies. What are they going to say? God's going to take care of me.
Okay, so when you have eaten or are full, okay, so beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his judgments, statutes, and I command you this day, lest when you have eaten or are full, build beautiful houses, dwell in them, and your herds and your flocks multiply, your silver, your gold multiply, and all that you have is multiplied. When your heart is lifted up before you forget the Lord your, again, that's in New Jerusalem. Your heart is lifted up before the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, Jesus Christ, from your house of bondage, who led you through the great, terrible wilderness. And remember, the house of bondage was out of Egypt, okay? That's a very common parallel that we're led out of the life of being unsaved, in bondage to sin. We love sin. And when we're born again, baptized in the Holy Spirit, we love God and not love sin. Led you through that great and terrible wilderness in which your fiery serpents and scorpions. Remember when Moses lifted the bronze serpent on a pole in the desert? That symbolized the cross, okay? And everyone who looked at the cross was saved in Israel. And Christ always mentioned, keep your eyes on me, to look at me, come unto me. And they brought water out of the flinty rock. Remember, Christ is that rock, and Israel beat the rock. Moses beat the rock, okay? And then it saved the people. Your fathers did not know, humble you, and might test you. We're in verse 17. Then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand, it gave me this wealth. Even now as Christians, like we get saved and we start doing all these works, and then we start to say, oh man, you got to be doing these works to be saved. No, remember, as it says here long ago, remember that you're saved by Christ and by him putting his Holy Spirit in you, not by your works. That's just a result of you being saved. So it's reminding you right here in the Old Testament to even remember that. And you shall, verse 18, you shall remember the house of your Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, and he may establish his covenant with which he swore to your forefathers, as it is this day, that he may establish his covenant with you, he swore to your forefathers. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God, and follow other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day, that you shall surely perish, as the nations which the Lord your God destroys before you, you shall perish, because you would not be obedient to the voice of the Lord. Okay, so that's actually a short one. There's a lot of repeats. Again, I don't even do the repeats, so there's so many parallels. Okay, there's always over 10 parallels in every chapter, and most people just think it's Isaiah 53, Psalm 22 are the only two prophecies of Christ, but no, it's every single chapter from Genesis, and right now we're in Deuteronomy 8. And I already know it's going to go all the way on to Zechariah, okay? And also, I'm going to go into the New Testament later and do the Old Testament parallels that are in the New Testament. So please subscribe and share this message, and have a nice day.